I watched my career end in a conference room on a Tuesday afternoon, and the man who killed it got a standing ovation. 15 years. 15 years I'd spent building Innovatex's infrastructure from the ground up. Every system, every protocol, every line of code that kept the lights on. That was me, Marcus, the guy nobody noticed until something broke. And then they hired Ryan. 26 years old, top of his class from some elite coding boot camp, the kind of guy who used words like synergy and disrupts in the same sentence without irony. Management loved him instantly. The flagship modernization project, my project, the one I'd been proposing for 2 years, got handed to him on his second week. I was given an advisory role, which is corporate speak for watch someone else get credit for your ideas. They also hired Elena around the same time. Fresh out of university, brilliant mind, eager to prove herself. She got assigned to Ryan's team, and from day one, I watched him perform.
Elena, check this out. I just bypassed the entire authentication layer with a custom API wrapper. Shaved 3 weeks off the timeline.
Wow, that's fast. But doesn't that skip the security audit?
Security audits are for people afraid to move fast. We'll patch it later. Trust me, this is how you make an impact.
You know that feeling when you see a car accident happening in slow motion? That's what the next 4 months felt like. Every week, Ryan would present some flashy new feature. Every week, I'd quietly document the corners he cut. Skipped load testing, hard-coded credentials, database calls that would choke under real traffic. He was building a house of cards and calling it innovation. I tried to warn people, sent emails, requested code reviews. Every single one got ignored or dismissed.
Marcus, I appreciate your concern, but we're operating on a different philosophy here. Maybe the old way worked for you, but this is a new era.
And Elena, she started asking me questions after hours. Smart questions, questions that told me she knew something was wrong.
Marcus, can I ask you something? Why did you originally build the authentication system with 3-layer verification?
Because 5 years ago we had a breach. It cost the company $2 million and nearly killed us. 3 layers isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition.
Ryan says we don't need it anymore because the new system is more elegant.
Elegant is a word people use when they don't want to admit they don't understand why something was built the way it was. She didn't say anything, but I saw the look in her eyes. Doubt. The kind you get when you realize the confident person might not actually know what they're doing. Then came the board presentation. Ryan had scheduled a live demo for the executive team, the entire C-suite, investors, the works. I sat in the back row with my laptop, watching the metrics I'd been tracking for months.
What you're about to see is a complete transformation of our platform, faster, sleeker, and built for scale. Elena and I have poured everything into this.
Notice what he did there? Elena and I. She wrote maybe 10% of the code. He took credit for suggestions I'd made in meetings, then framed me out of the narrative entirely. The demo went perfectly. Of course it did. He was only running it with 50 test users. I'd told him 3 months earlier that the system would hold under light load. The problems would come when real traffic hit. Ryan, this is exceptional work. How soon can we push this to production?
2 weeks, sir. We're ready.
And then Ryan looked right at me.
I do want to acknowledge this wouldn't have been possible without the legacy team's foundational work. Marcus almost slowed us down with his overcautious approach, but ultimately we found a way to move past that thinking.
The room laughed. Polite, boardroom laughter. But it was laughter at me. David Chen stood up and shook Ryan's hand. Ryan, I'm promoting you to lead architect effective immediately. This is the kind of bold leadership we need. Lead architect, the position I'd been working toward for a decade, gone, just like that. After the meeting, I got an email from HR. My role was being restructured. I was being moved to the maintenance team, and I had 30 days to pass a performance review or face termination. 30 days, after 15 years. That night, I sat in my home office staring at my audit logs. Months of documentation, every vulnerability, every shortcut, every skipped test, all saved in a folder on the company server marked Architecture Review Notes. I had proof. I had evidence. I could escalate this. Or I could wait. 2 weeks later, the system went live. Company-wide announcement. Ryan did a press release. Tech blogs picked it up. He was the golden boy. Elena stopped by my new desk in the maintenance wing. She looked uncomfortable.
Marcus, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry about what happened. The presentation, the promotion, it wasn't fair.
It's fine, Elena. You did good work. You should be proud.
But I didn't write most of that code, Ryan did. And some of it, Marcus, some of it doesn't make sense to me. Like the database queries, they're nested in ways that seem
Inefficient?
dangerous.
I looked at her for a long moment. Then you'll have to decide what kind of engineer you want to be. The kind who speaks up, or the kind who stays quiet because it's easier. She left without another word, and I went back to monitoring the system logs. Waiting. 3 days later, Ryan showed up at my desk. He wasn't smiling.
Holes, we need to talk. In private.
We walked to an empty conference room. He closed the door.
I know what you've been doing.
I don't know what you mean.
The audit logs, the documentation. I found your little folder on the server. Architecture review notes. Real subtle, Marcus.
My stomach dropped.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm deleting those files, all of them, and you're going to keep your mouth shut.
You can't just delete company documentation.
I'm the lead architect now, Marcus. I have admin privileges, and you know what I found when I reviewed those files? Security protocol violations. You were keeping unauthorized records of proprietary code. That's grounds for immediate termination.
He smiled, actually smiled.
So here's the deal. The files disappear. You finish your 30 days quietly, and maybe, I'll put in a good word for you when your review comes up. Or you can fight this, and I'll make sure you leave here with nothing, not even a reference.
I sat there, looking at this kid who thought he'd won, who thought he'd backed me into a corner. Do what you need to do. He deleted the files that afternoon. Every single one. Went to the CTO, told him he was cleaning up legacy documentation clutter, got approval, just like that, months of evidence. Gone. The next morning, I got called into HR.
Marcus, we've received a report that you may have been maintaining unauthorized documentation of company code. This is a serious policy violation. We're opening a formal investigation.
Ryan had flipped it, made me the bad guy, and because the files were deleted, I had no proof they were legitimate architecture reviews. I looked like I'd been hoarding IP. The investigation became company gossip within hours. I could see it in people's faces. The way conversations stopped when I walked by. Elena wouldn't even make eye contact anymore. That Friday, David Chen sent a company-wide email. I want to personally congratulate our new architecture team for their bold vision and flawless execution. The platform migration is a testament to what's possible when we embrace innovation without fear. This is the future of Innovatech. Without fear. That line stuck with me. That weekend, I sat in my home office, the place where I'd spent 15 years solving problems nobody else could solve, building systems that just worked, and I realized something. Ryan had made one critical mistake, one assumption that was about to cost him everything. He assumed I only kept one copy. See, when you spend 15 years in infrastructure, you learn something fundamental about systems. Always have a backup, always have a fail-safe, never trust a single point of failure. Every single audit log, every warning, every flagged vulnerability, I had copies, offline, time-stamped, backed up to 3 separate locations Ryan didn't even know existed. But I didn't use them, not yet. Because here's the thing about technical debt, it always comes due. And Ryan's system was a ticking time bomb. I knew exactly when it would go off. I'd calculated it down to the week. The system was running in limited production, 5,000 users, light load, everything looked fine. But in 2 weeks, they were rolling it out company-wide, 50,000 users, peak traffic. The database queries Ryan had hard-coded would collapse under that load like a house of cards. And this time, I wasn't going to fix it. Monday morning, HR called me in again. They were accelerating my performance review. 30 days had become 2 weeks.
Marcus, given the investigation and the concerns about your recent conduct, we feel it's best to expedite this process. Your final review is scheduled for next Friday.
Next Friday, the same day as the company-wide rollout. Perfect timing. That week, I watched Ryan prepare for his moment of glory. Press releases, internal announcements, he even scheduled a live demo for potential investors. The whole company was watching. Thursday night, Elena found me in the maintenance wing. She looked exhausted.
Marcus, I need to show you something.
She pulled up her laptop. Code! Ryan's code! And it was worse than I thought.
I've been going through the authentication module. Marcus, he plagiarized parts of it from an open source library, but he stripped out the attribution and put my name on it. If this goes public, I could be blacklisted for copyright violation.
She was shaking.
I don't know what to do. If I report this, I lose my job. If I don't, I could lose my entire career.
I looked at this young engineer who'd done nothing wrong except trust the wrong person, and I made a decision. Elena, tomorrow when the system goes live, it's going to fail, catastrophically, and when it does, you're going to need proof that you tried to stop it. I pulled up my backup files, showed her everything, the audit logs, the warnings, the timeline. I flagged every one of these issues in writing. Ryan ignored them, deleted the evidence, and now you have to choose. Do you want to be complicit in his failure, or do you want to be the one who told the truth?
But if I speak up now, before anything happens, they'll just say I'm bitter, that I'm trying to sabotage Ryan because I'm jealous.
Then wait. Document everything you find tonight, and when the system crashes tomorrow, and it will crash, you bring this to the board, not as an attack, as evidence. She nodded slowly, and for the first time in weeks I saw something in her eyes that wasn't fear. It was resolve. Friday morning, the day of reckoning. At 9 a.m., the system went live to all 50,000 users. At 9:15, I was sitting in my performance review with HR and David Chen. At 9:30, my phone started buzzing. Emergency alerts, system failures, database timeouts. David's phone rang. Then again. Then again. I need to take this. Stay here. He left. The HR rep left, and I sat in that conference room watching through the glass walls as the entire office descended into chaos. Screens flashing red, people running between cubicles, Ryan shouting orders that no one could execute because the system wasn't just broken, it was collapsing in exactly the way I'd predicted 4 months ago. And then it got worse. Oh! The authentication bypass Ryan had implemented, the one he'd used to move fast, it had created a security hole, and during the cascade failure, that hole got exposed. Customer data, credit card information, social security numbers, all accessible for approximately 14 minutes before someone managed to shut down the servers entirely. 14 minutes. That's all it took for Innovatech to go from tech darling to facing a class action lawsuit. At 10 a.m., David Chen called an emergency board meeting. Everyone was required to attend, even me. The conference room was silent. Ryan sat at the table, pale, hands shaking. David stood at the head, and I'd never seen him that angry. I want answers. Now! How did this happen? How did a system we demoed successfully 2 weeks ago completely collapse in under an hour?
Sir, the load was higher than projected. The database couldn't handle.
We have 50,000 employees. You knew the load, so explain to me why we're facing a potential data breach lawsuit. Ryan opened his mouth. Nothing came out, and then Elena stood up.
Sir, I can explain, but you're not going to like it.
She pulled out her laptop, opened the files, and presented everything: the plagiarized code, the bypassed security protocols, the skipped load testing, every single corner Ryan had cut, every warning he'd ignored, all laid out with timestamps and documentation.
And this isn't speculation. Marcus flagged every single one of these issues months ago. He documented them in formal architecture reviews. Ryan deleted those files and opened an HR investigation against Marcus to silence him.
The room went dead silent. Is this true, Ryan?
Those files were unauthorized documentation, security violations. I had every right to.
Those files were architecture reviews, standard practice, and you deleted evidence of gross negligence to protect your own reputation. David turned to me. Marcus, do you still have copies of those reviews? I pulled out my laptop, opened the backup files, and slid it across the table. Every warning, every risk assessment, every recommendation that was ignored, all timestamped, all documented. I flagged the authentication vulnerability on March 7th. I predicted the database collapse on April 2nd. I warned about the exact failure mode we just experienced. David scrolled through the files. His jaw tightened with every page. Ryan, you're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out, and if I find out you've touched any company property on your way out that door, I will personally ensure you never work in this industry again. Ryan stood up, looked at me, and for just a second I saw it, the moment he realized he'd destroyed himself. Not through bad luck, not through conspiracy, through his own arrogance. David turned to me. Marcus, I owe you an apology, multiple apologies, and I'm promoting you to lead architect, effective immediately. Your first job is to fix this mess. Whatever you need, you have it. He paused. And Marcus, why didn't you stop this? You knew it was going to fail. You had the documentation. Why didn't you escalate sooner? I looked at him, and I told the truth. I tried, multiple times. I was told I was overcautious, outdated, in the way, so I documented everything and waited for reality to prove me right. Because sometimes, David, the only way to teach someone a lesson is to let them experience the consequences of their own choices. The room was silent. It took 6 weeks to rebuild the system. Elena and I worked late most nights, tearing out Ryan's shortcuts and replacing them with actual architecture, the kind that doesn't collapse under pressure. Somewhere around week 3, over cold pizza at midnight, she asked me a question.
Why did you help me? After everything, after I stayed silent during that presentation, why did you give me a second chance?
I thought about it for a moment. Because you asked the right questions, because when it mattered, you chose truth over safety, and because I remember what it's like to be young in this industry and not know who to trust. She smiled, and went back to her code. 6 months later, the system was running flawlessly. 50,000 users, 0 breaches, 0 failures. Elena got promoted to senior developer. I got a formal apology from the board and a raise I should have received 5 years ago. And Ryan, last I heard, he's working at a startup, telling everyone he scaled a major platform at a Fortune 500 company, leaving out the part where it collapsed spectacularly and got him fired. Some people never learn. But here's what I learned. Justice doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes it comes from patience, from documentation, from letting arrogance run its natural course while you quietly prepare for the inevitable. And when the house of cards finally falls, you're standing there with the blueprints to build something better. Thanks for listening to this one. If this story resonated with you, maybe you've dealt with someone who took credit for your work, or you've watched arrogance destroy something you built. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And hey, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is there. It's always wild to see how far these stories travel. Until next time, stay patient, document everything, and remember, the truth always has a way of coming out.